doing more, giving more, getting forward. I want to be talking about RPM, strategy and interventions as the pillar of my work. RPM, number one. RPM means that we are focused on the outcomes, not on the activities. It stands for Rapid Planning Method, or Results Planning Method, or Results-Driven, Results-Focused, Purpose-Driven Massive Action Plan, meaning that you're focused on the result that you want to be after. I give you an example. When you have a meeting, for example, the outcome is not to get the meeting done. The outcome is to get a certain outcome from this meeting. What do we want to decide? What do we want to talk about? Who do you want to connect to? Who do you want to catch up with? What kind of information do you want to gather or convey? That's the outcome. And so everybody should have their outcome for the meeting as well. What is the outcome? Here's what I want to convey. Here's what I want to receive from this meeting. What's our outcome? And then we only talk about this one thing and nothing else. Not the next step afterwards, not the third problem afterwards when we haven't even solved the first problem. So it will take us 2 or 3 days to solve one problem, and then we go to the next problem with more meetings. But we don't address 2 or 3 problems at the same time. In the same way, when you have your outcomes clear for your day as the owner or the operator or the founder of the business, it makes sense to invest some 5 to 15 minutes each day to commit yourself. Also verbally in front of other people, and this is worth your time and this is worth your effort. In life, it's all about micro habits, at least when we're talking about success. Success comes from actions. That's not new to us. So we need to find a way to allocate our energies into the right actions and directions. That's all very basic, but that's the only real thing that we need to pay attention to in the macro level. It's like, what actions do we take? What actions can we take to make our team take the actions on our behalf? Or software take the actions on our behalf? Or agents? Coming more and more, right? But we want to be clear about the outcome. What is the outcome? And then committing ourselves to that. Our daily outcomes. What are our daily outcomes? And to be clear, we don't need every day to just work on the outcomes. We can also do things that are fun and easy for us. We can have meetings, we can have one-on-one meetings to just build a good connection. There doesn't always need to be an outcome, but the outcome can be to build a good connection, to strengthen and fortify the connection with that key employee, or even if the employee is not the key employee. When you say, okay, this afternoon from 4 to 6, before I wrap up my day, I'm going to have 2 hours of meetings and kind of wind down because my creativity is spent. I've gotten my major 3 outcomes. Now, let me just post a few thoughts on Twitter and have meetings and journal afterwards. Whatever that might be. It doesn't have to be all day pure, complete, outcome-driven activity. It can be like that. And in times where it is very dense in terms of work, we might do that, but we also want to find a balance in our work routine throughout the day consistently so that we don't burn out, because recovering, like burnout is a big word. Most people understand by that 3 to 6 months of being, or like even longer, being completely out of work. I call it a crash. And there's friction time. There's time building up to the crash, and there's time getting out of the crash back to normal. And when you factor all of that in, that might be really like 2 weeks of lost productivity, because usually a crash is anywhere between 2 to 6 days. Where you're like really in the hole, and it just takes some time for your energies to recuperate, in the same way as if you are doing some kind of weight loss bodybuilding competition and you lose body fat a lot, or you study for an exam. Afterwards, you don't want to, like when you're in college, it's your final, your final paper, the final deadline, whatever that is, or a big presentation in the company. You have a big acquisition that you make in your business. Afterwards, you don't want to deal with any of that anymore. So throughout our days, we want to make it so that we're always ahead that we are not catching up. And this is mostly a mindset, because when we believe that we are ahead of the curve of where we should be, then we manifest that through what we delegate to our teams, the kind of software tools that we use, because it can be done today in this day and age. But if we believe we have to catch up, we haven't even solved things in our own lives, that's bad, because the mindset manifests just the same. So that's RPM, results planning method. Strategy is also very important, because strategy basically means being strategic and aligning your energies, letting them flow into the right actions and directions, and also being able to cast that vision of the strategy to the team. And so the way I see it is the following. There's the vision. In order to have the vision, for your company, you have to have the vision for yourself. If you don't know who you want to become as a person, what you pay attention to in terms of skills, and that's very different whether you want to become an engineering genius or a public speaker, or whether you want to be a philanthropic influencer. It's very different, the things that you need to be paying attention to. Or whether you want to be a CEO who's also an athlete. Like, it's very different when your goal is to be this philanthropic influencer. You really want to spend your time on branding and social media and making connections. And when you want to be a CEO or any kind of professional who's also a marathon runner and health, you need to prioritize very different things. And so your morning routine might not be to publish on social media, but to ingest healthy supplements, an apple ginger shot, go to the sauna at 5 a.m., whatever that might be for you. Red light therapy, that doesn't mean prostitutes, that means to wake yourself up. And so it's different for everybody. Strategy. The strategy, when the vision is being cast, the strategy helps the teams and employees draw on other energy reserves deeper inside of them that they otherwise wouldn't have drawn on. When you connect the right vision and the right strategy with the goals of the individual, something interesting happens. Once we see how something is personal to us, the energies that are already moving inside of every single person, every single employee that you have, where their mind is going automatically towards, okay, what do I need? What do I want? How is it relevant to us? That's what our reticular activating system always does. You probably heard in personal development, some books that you've read. We see a certain car, we see a certain dress on the street, because that's the type of car that we want. We are being programmed to perceiving what's relevant for us. And we think, if I have this dress, if I have this car, then my life will be enhanced in these certain ways that I think about what it will do for me, right? In the same way with the strategy. Everybody goes through life perceiving things differently and kind of really seeking for fulfillment until we've found that. And most people just haven't found that yet. So they are still kind of seeking something. And anything that's kind of related to that is being perceived as pleasurable, is being given importance to by the brain and the nervous system of your employees. So if you can relate the strategy of your company, where you're going, towards what is important for your employees, a different reservoir of energy is being accessed. So that's the benefit of strategy. RPM, strategy, and interventions. Interventions, after all, so that all of our energies are flowing into the right actions and directions. Basically, that means that we rearrange our life circumstances in a way that we have more of that energy, and so that the energy that we have is going into the right directions and into the right actions. I've shared this before. In order to change our lives, it can only be done through action. Yes, we change our life first by changing our thinking, but we have to make sure that the thinking leads to action. And that's the good thing. If you change your thinking first, at some point the action taking will become effortless, because you have become that type of person. But just to make it clear, it's the actions that after all change it. But with the thinking, you change your perception. In the same way as we said, the car or the dress is being perceived as something pleasurable. When we change our thoughts and our thinking, we perceive different things. We perceive opportunities as opportunities that they are. But then action needs to be taken to actually seize that opportunity. And the opportunity can be very small, like replying to somebody on social media, some post that they had, your comment gets seen by the right person, they reach out to you, but it takes the action. Thinking is not enough, but it is essential. If you don't take the right thoughts, the actions won't be powerful, and you won't be able to sustain it if you don't have your thinking aligned. It's very interesting. We're going to be talking about more about that in upcoming future videos. So RPM strategy and interventions so that we rearrange our life circumstances. In my opinion, oftentimes there's a lot of emphasis on the inner transformation, and this is truly essential. On the other hand, when we look into healing work and self-therapy and sorting out your problems, your issues, oftentimes it's just that you're living your life in the wrong way. Wrong meaning not ideal for you. And life's rarely ideal, right? We're going through a difficult time in 2024. Kind of everywhere things are changing a lot. Something new is being born. Birth pangs, right? And so a new consciousness. And so it's challenging everywhere, but that's kind of what it's meant to be, right? And so we want to make sure that in these times where manifestation is so much easier than it was before, both positive and negative, that means your positive thoughts really can get you forward fast, but negative thoughts, man, they can also get you spiraling, and then you get crushed by the intensity of the situation. That's also very possible. And you know a lot of people who completely lost it and they're not among us anymore. I'm sure you know examples. Or they're just not the same person. But you also know other people who have just. Hopefully you do. Because they are out there and increasing in numbers. So, yeah. RPM strategy and interventions. We do those interventions so that we rearrange our life circumstances. The inner transformation is very important and that is essential. But for healing work, oftentimes, let's take a look at our life circumstances, how we live our lives, where our energies are flowing and moving, what we're doing with our energies, what kind of environment do we live in, what are the habits that we consistently do. That's also our life circumstance. Like, what do we consistently let into our minds? It's very important. And so, habits, changes of life circumstances, arranging life circumstances, also so that you have just more time in the day to do all of the things that you want to be doing. A lot of people really underestimate that. I see this. Like, they still spend time cooking, cleaning their clothes. It's like,